Is it time to rethink your relationship with the sun? And the simple answer is yes, it is. We have been told for decades that sunlight exposure is bad for us. We need to stay out of the sun. We need to seek shade. We need to cover up. We need to lather ourselves in sunscreen. When what we actually see in longitudinal studies of thousands of people is the reverse is true. The more you are out in daylight and sunlight, the lower all-cause mortality. We also see the more you are out in sunlight and daylight, the more protected you are against a lot of different cancers and a lot of very, very nasty cancers, let's put it that way. And so all this time we've been told, stay out of the sun, lather up, don't let any of the goodness of the sun get to your skin. And never once have we talked about the environment that you exist in that actually could be having an impact on your skin's ability to absorb the sunlight. Whether we're talking about the nutrients that you put into your body, whether you are consistently in this pro-inflammatory state and therefore you give your body no chance to deal with sunlight, whether you get enough sulfur, whether you get enough copper and stuff like that. Whether your light environment in the evening is depriving you of your ability to repair and rejuvenate any kind of sun damage. So for example, if you have very high levels of blue light, green light, cyan colored light, then that artificially dampens your melatonin levels, and your melatonin levels are important for repairing any kind of UV damage. And what do we have in the evening light? High levels of blue, green, cyan light. What do we have in the TV? Blue backlit. What do we have in the computer? Blue backlit. What do we have on the phone? Blue backlit. So maybe it's time we reconsider our relationship with the sun, but also reconsider our relationship with light and the environment. What else can we do? We can get out into morning sunlight, which actually triggers and activates protective mechanisms and prepares the body for the higher levels of UVB that come at lunchtime. Do you need to be out in those higher levels of UVB at lunchtime? Not necessarily, but they are the time where you synthesize the highest percentage of your vitamin D. So they have a positive effect. But am I saying that you need to go out there and lay in the sun and burn yourself? No, be sensible. Start to listen to your body again. I have been sunbathing out in the sun for the last 3 years without any kind of sunscreen, etc. And I haven't been burnt once because I listen to my body. I do the right things. I eat the right foods, and I try and keep my body as anti-inflammatory as possible. I try not to make it into a pro-inflammatory state. I respect morning sunlight. I trigger those kind of protective mechanisms to occur. I use red and infrared light to, again, there was a study that showed that using red and infrared light prior to sun exposure had an SPF, a natural SPF occurrence of somewhere between 10 and 15. I use it after sunlight exposure to help my body repair and recover any kind of potential UV damage, because it's not beat around the bush that there is certain damage that occurs, but that damage occurs, and our ability to repair and rejuvenate through melatonin, through red and infrared light, it should be able to cope with that. If your body isn't, then you need to look at your circadian rhythm. Are you sleeping? Do you have a good sleeping rhythm? Or are you in a pro-inflammatory state from that? Are you eating the right kind of foods, or are you eating pro-inflammatory foods? Are you getting out in the day to trigger your body into expecting higher levels of UVA and UVB? Are you seeing the sun set and therefore setting your body up for naturally rising melatonin levels, which repair and rejuvenate? So again, is it time we reevaluate our relationship with the sun and light and daylight in general, and stop being scared of it? Again, I am saying sensible sun exposure. So if you are someone that sits in an office under artificial light all day, every day, hasn't exposed parts of their body for well over a year, then going out and expecting to be able to sunbathe for hours on end is silly. But start to look at your environment as a whole. Start to look at your circadian rhythm. Start to look at your evening light, your morning light, your diet. Start to look at how your body responds to stressors. So adding in temperature stressors can also help. And then start to slowly expose those parts of your body into sunlight. And at the start, the bits that haven't been exposed usually, try to expose them outside of those kind of high UVB levels. Longer term, we want to be out in a little bit of that in order to maximize the synthesis of vitamin D. Especially here in Norway, we have a very finite amount of time where we can synthesize enough vitamin D during the summer in order to kind of eke out through the winter, because the winter is long. The lack of vitamin D synthesis from the sun is huge in Norway. And so it's about time that we start to reevaluate our own relationship with the sun and actually start to appreciate the benefits that sun exposure, light exposure on all cause mortality as well as very nasty cancers, how good sunlight exposure and daylight exposure can be at protecting us from those things. Have a great day, stay healthy, get enough light, and boost yourself a little bit more. Get some red and infrared light onto your body.